Saul, it's not good for your body.
You know, with plural marriage, you'd think you would need...
They show the drama, but never the drawers. Here's what TLC doesn't want you to see inside Robyn Brown's house. Few moments on television scream unintentional comedy, quite like the camera zooming in on Robyn Brown's drawer overflowing with pens. It wasn't just a drawer. It was a shrine to overconsumption, a monument to impulse buying, a hoarder's Pandora's box of expired ink and broken dreams. This isn't a matter of a few stray ballpoints. The sheer volume of writing utensils was absurd. And let's not pretend it's limited to one drawer.
Bought this piece of property with the intention that we would all build houses here.
The chaos spills into every corner of the house. The pantry? Crammed to capacity. Chickpea chips, 4 bags, possibly all open. Shelves sagging under the weight of duplicates, forgotten snacks, and the ghosts of grocery lists past. There's no evidence of inventory management here.
Two of us should go take a nap instead of go make caramels, Mary.
Wouldn't that be funny? I say we go down to the store.
The shopping strategy seems simple. Buy now, question never. It's consumerism without memory, logic, or a glance into the fridge. Her daughter once bragged that Robyn's receipts were always longer at the beginning, presumably before she started saving for vacations. One wonders if those receipts doubled during the pandemic, when she may have single-handedly cleared the shelves of toilet paper and cleaning supplies. And then there's the garage.
We're expecting that we may be moving. We're hoping we're going to be moving. And so we have been going through a process of packing.
A museum of oversized plastic totes, each one brimming with the same forgotten miscellany as the last. These aren't organized systems. They're graveyards for items no one will ever bother to sort. Because when something can't be found, the solution isn't to look harder, it's to go buy another. For Robyn, misplacing a spatula might just be the golden ticket to another retail excursion. No item too redundant. No excuse too thin.
She's been just struggling to let go of the dream.
Figured it's time for us to figure out Coyote Pass.
Her refusal to part with anything is not confined to objects. Look no further than her emotional storage unit. Mary, Coyote Pass, and a slew of long-expired commitments she simply couldn't bring herself to discard. The parallel between her cluttered home and her cluttered relationships is almost poetic, if tragically so. Of course, some would call this a classic case of the poverty mindset, an all too common consequence of growing up with financial insecurity. The compulsive need to hold on to items, especially food, often stems from a deep-seated fear of future scarcity. But understanding it doesn't make it any less stressful to witness. The visual chaos is palpable. The infamous drawer alone induces anxiety. It's likely 25% pens that no longer work, 50% random school supplies in various stages of decay, and the rest a collection of mystery items too meaningless to remember, yet too valuable to toss. At this point, it's hard not to root for a spin-off. Sister Wives, Hoarder's Edition. All that's missing is the wide-angle lens to capture the full scope of Robyn and Cody's cluttered kingdom. Line them up, open the cabinets, let the public marvel. Because if there's one thing Robyn's house isn't short on, it's content. The real mess isn't Robyn's pantry, it's the performance behind it. If ever there was an attempt to pass off minimal effort as monumental labor, Robyn Brown's pantry scene deserves a standing ovation for performance art, not housekeeping. The spectacle of her messy pantry was less a candid moment and more a stage-managed charade, choreographed with the kind of precision one usually reserves for crisis management. Because make no mistake, this wasn't about storage. It was about strategy. Let's start with the most obvious layer of manipulation: damage control disguised as transparency. Robyn has long been accused of keeping her home life tightly under wraps, So, what better way to silence critics than to throw open the pantry doors? Never mind that the pantry itself told a story no amount of scripted dialogue could suppress.
Wear mask in public, sanitize.
A shrine to processed snacks and takeout survival, it revealed not just a lack of culinary engagement, but a lifestyle dependent on convenience food and DoorDash. The implication? This self-styled homemaker has outsourced the very thing she claims to be mastering. Which brings us to the second illusion: effort. By presenting the pantry as a site of ongoing domestic labor, Robyn attempts to justify her absence from more pressing family matters. Allegedly, she was too busy organizing to notice a text from the realtor, a plot point so poorly disguised it might as well have worn a name tag.
Hey man, how's it going?
What's happening?
just caught you driving up. How are you?
The scene labors to communicate that maintaining a large home is exhausting, thankless, and time-consuming. And yet, all we saw was someone awkwardly placing chip bags into dollar store bins without rhyme, reason, or recognizable system. The chips, by the way, were all turned backwards, brand logos hidden like a magician concealing a trap door. Because yes, even the clutter was curated. Then there's the family dynamic. For a stay-at-home mother with only 2 children still of school age, and at least 2 adult children presumably capable of helping, it's curious how this narrative of endless labor is being spun. If anything, the lack of actual food in the pantry is more telling than its arrangement. It suggests not just culinary apathy, but a household running on autopilot. Robyn's proximity to the stove has been virtually non-existent on screen, and reports of regular restaurant visits only reinforce the impression that dinner comes with a receipt, not a recipe. But perhaps the most revealing element wasn't the pantry's content, but its context. It was the most organized room they could find for the scene, and even that required strategic camera angles and selective presentation.
And maybe it's because Robyn is the only one that he really is with anymore.
The scene is a response, not a revelation. A desperate attempt to reshape the narrative without actually doing the work to earn it. The audience isn't supposed to notice the lack of meals cooked, messages returned, or meaningful contributions made. We're just supposed to be dazzled by a basket of crackers. In the end, Robyn's pantry isn't just a room. It's a metaphor. For image over substance, for performance over presence, and for a woman who insists on being perceived as the glue holding the household together, while doing everything possible to avoid getting her hands sticky. What if I told you it wasn't sister wives, but special forces that finally exposed who Kody Brown really is?
I'm struggling to reach out to my kids anymore because Janelle's household.
For years, Sister Wives has spun its wheels in a strange purgatory of passive conflict and unfulfilled consequences. Episodes drift by with little more than emotional stalemates, half-baked apologies, and a man-child in a leather jacket reinventing victimhood. Fans watched, perhaps out of habit, perhaps out of a lingering hope that eventually, Kody Brown would be held to account. Not by producers, not by his wives, certainly not by himself, but by something, anything, that would expose his behavior for what it truly is. Enter Special Forces, world's toughest test. It was, unexpectedly, the finale Sister Wives never delivered. In the span of mere minutes, Special Forces offered more truth about Kody Brown than a decade's worth of confessional couch segments. Stripped of his patriarchal throne and forced to interact on equal terms, Kody floundered. Watching him stand by as 3 women were pushed to their limits, without a word of support, without so much as a flicker of concern, was, in a word, illuminating. In another, grotesque. He wasn't just passive, he was disturbingly indifferent. And then came the interrogation segment, where the true Cody emerged, or perhaps simply slipped through his own cracks.
I'm going to be the head of my household again.
Faced with a female interrogator, he refused eye contact, ignored her questions, and radiated contempt with every dismissive silence. Cue the switch to a male interrogator, and suddenly, Cody snapped to attention. Deference, engagement, a spark of admiration. The transformation wasn't just noticeable, it was chilling. Even the show's directing staff caught it and subtly let it speak for itself. For a man who built his public persona on spiritual leadership, family values, and performative masculinity, the irony was exquisite.
I am not the head of this family.
3 women outlasted him. And not just any women. Women he refused to support, whose strength he failed to recognize, and who ultimately proved tougher, more resilient, and far more grounded than he ever pretended to be.
I feel so betrayed after all that I have done for this marriage.
Of course, he'll try to spin it. He always does. No doubt, we'll soon hear that the female interrogator wasn't worthy of his attention. Not that he was humiliated. That he was the last man standing. Not that he was outlasted by women he clearly underestimated. The delusion is predictable. So is the denial. And therein lies the frustration. Sister Wives has never offered any real consequences. Cody and Robyn continue their low-stakes performance as misunderstood martyrs, all while the emotional wreckage left behind, most notably among the children, is treated as background noise. One by one, the older kids have begun to speak out, revealing that what we see on screen is Cody on his best behavior. What lies beyond the cameras, they suggest, is even more alarming. Special Forces didn't redeem that damage. It didn't right the wrongs. It didn't fix the fractured families or return a father to the children he so publicly failed. But for once, Cody Brown wasn't able to manipulate the narrative. He couldn't redefine failure as principle or condescension as confidence. He was simply outclassed, outperformed, and gloriously outlasted. And still, he'll probably clutch on to whatever scraps of dignity he believes are left, perhaps already preparing a morning show monologue, blaming everyone but himself. He always does. That, too, is predictable. But let's be clear. This wasn't growth. This wasn't a reckoning for his children, or for the years of neglect disguised as spiritual discipline. This wasn't even accountability. It was merely exposure. And while it may not be justice, it was, at long last, honest. Cody and Robyn didn't want Mary silent because of drama. They wanted her gagged because she knows too much.
With the fact that they were trying to get me to sign a confidentiality agreement that I was not willing to agree to.
In a stunningly transparent moment, rare for this show, where manipulation usually simmers beneath the surface, the producers cut straight to the point with a question that pierced the fog of legal jargon and feigned concern. If you'd signed the confidentiality agreement and they had sold the property out from under you, would you be able to talk about it? Mary's answer? A succinct, damning no. That exchange laid bare the real reason Cody and Robyn pushed a non-disclosure agreement on Mary. Forget the wild guesses about college secrets or memoir gossip. The NDA wasn't about what Mary might say someday. It was about what she might say the moment they betrayed her financially. Let's not pretend this was a precautionary measure. It was a preemptive gag order.
In this place where I was like, backdoor deal almost with Janelle. Hey, we'll just sell it out from under these other two.
Cody, ever the strategic opportunist, floated the idea of a backdoor deal with Janelle, which now reads more like a trial run to see if anyone would object to cutting Mary out of the Coyote Pass sale entirely. Spoiler, she objected. So did Janelle, quietly but firmly. And Robyn? Well, when manipulation fails, morality makes its grand entrance, conveniently timed and self-congratulatory.
Before Coyote Pass sold, we got a written offer, but we were still in the middle of the paperwork.
The NDA was timed with surgical precision. Cody and Robyn tried to get Mary to sign it before finalizing the paperwork to add her name to the property lots. Not after, not during, before. The implication is as insulting as it is obvious. Had she signed, they would have backed out, sold the property, and left her with a legally bound gag and no financial recourse. But Mary, long underestimated, didn't fall for it. That's why her shock, "I can't believe they would do this to me," isn't about personal betrayal. It's the horror of realizing that this was never about trust. It was about calculated financial erasure. And she has receipts, literal ones. Her financial contributions to Cody and Robyn's ever-expanding empire are well documented. She had to present them, after all, during that conversation with Jen, where it was stated on camera that Mary had covered everything for Leon. That wasn't a sentimental disclosure, it was a legal breadcrumb trail. This, of course, is the real danger for Cody and Robyn. Not that Mary will write a tell-all, but that she already holds the data to expose a pattern. The siphoning of funds from other wives under the guise of family support.
And if somehow we came in and bought the debt, we would make sure Mary got her share.
Janelle and Mary bankrolled Robyn's house under the illusion that it was a communal gathering spot. In reality, it became the gilded cage for Robyn's nuclear dream and Cody's selective fatherhood. So yes, if this NDA were truly just about a land parcel, one might ask why it was cloaked in such general language.
I have had my suspicions. He's doing something and doesn't want us to know.
Why the urgency? Why the secrecy? Why not just call a meeting and clarify intentions? Simple. Because Mary was never meant to be a partner in this decision. She was an obstacle to be silenced. And yet, there's more. The strategic timing of the NDA, the vague language, the pressure to sign, all reek of broader motivations. Perhaps they feared a memoir like Christine's, or a public reckoning about other family fractures. Perhaps they simply didn't want Mary, for once, to have a sliver of power. Whatever the case, the effort speaks volumes. You don't commission a confidentiality agreement unless you have something to hide, or someone you desperately hope won't start talking. The supposed balancing act of adding Mary's name to the remaining parcels was no act of fairness. It was damage control. An NDA without compensation is coercion in a nicer font. And while public record might eventually reveal a shady land deal, it can't capture tone, intent, or context. Mary can. And that's what Cody and Robyn fear most. Not exposure, but interpretation. In the end, they didn't fail to trick her because they had a change of heart. They failed because Mary, after years of loyalty, finally started reading the fine print. Robyn didn't just inherit Coyote Pass. She hijacked it, with Cody driving the getaway car. When it comes to the unraveling saga of Coyote Pass, one thing is abundantly clear.
You get in this space with family and you're working together and everybody's making sacrifices, and it was tight.
Fairness, as defined by Robyn and Cody Brown, is little more than a performance, equal parts manipulation and misdirection, all cloaked in the language of equity and family unity.
He's putting the whole thing on me that I slowed it down, that I'm the problem.
The real issue with the delayed sale of Coyote Pass appears less about paperwork and more about power. The most plausible theory is that Mary, armed with competent legal advice, deliberately placed an encumbrance on the property's title, effectively forcing Cody and his legally wedded favorite to face the reality of equal division. After all, Why else would the supposed patriarch suddenly pivot from messianic family leadership to petty sabotage?
And so I think in a lot of ways, he's made himself even more villainous.
Cody's theatrical attempts to villainize Janelle look suspiciously like a smokescreen to deflect attention from the true obstacle. Robyn. Ah, yes. Robyn, forever wrapped in the gauzy veil of victimhood while wielding extraordinary influence behind the scenes. Her brand of fairness seems to translate to everyone sacrifices except me. The moment Mary dared request a property assessment, the stunned faces of Cody and Robyn said it all. They weren't expecting resistance. They were expecting capitulation. The plan, it seems, was to wait out the others, wear down Mary and Janelle until they'd accept crumbs from the table and call it closure. And why not?
Coyote Pass. So now Coyote Pass has just got 4 owners. How are we going to divide?
Robyn and Cody positioned themselves to walk off with 50% of the land, despite being one legal unit. The property should have been divided in thirds, not into 4 neat 25% slices that conveniently gifted Robyn an unearned quarter stake. Let's not pretend Robyn's contribution matched anyone else's. Financially, her input has always been ambiguous at best. Yet somehow, she and Cody retained full equity in their sprawling mansion, while Mary cycled through rentals and Janelle alternated between a modest apartment and an RV, parked on the very land being disputed. This, of course, isn't a case of oversight. It's strategy, painfully transparent and executed with smug precision.
But then we had to take a private mortgage on a portion of it that we just didn't have the cash for.
The delay in selling the land just happened to coincide with Cody and Robyn finalizing a new loan for their McMansion. Once that was secured, suddenly, paperwork was miraculously ready, and a buyer appeared. What a coincidence. And in the middle of all this, Robyn, again, interpreting acts of basic survival, such as staying warm in one's car, as personal attacks, imagined offenses, and sinister messages sent by the OG wives. With her ever-reliable, cold-blooded instincts, she transforms mundane moments into family betrayals, only to react as though those figments were fact. Cody, naturally, follows suit. It's hard to tell where her paranoia ends and his ego begins. But let's not pretend this drama will end neatly. If Robyn believes she's immune to the cycle of betrayal she so deftly helped orchestrate, she's in for a revelation. When the game turns, because it always does, she may just find herself on the receiving end of the same treatment she enabled. Manipulators rarely get the luxury of watching the house burn down from a distance. Eventually, the fire reaches every corner.
Okay, so I did call that lawyer that you talked to.
Oh.
And as for Mary and Janelle, the quiet resolve to lawyer up may have spoken louder than any family meeting. No need for theatrics, just a legal reality check that made Cody flinch and Robyn retreat. Because while Cody is more than willing to be cast as the villain on camera, the real concern is what might surface off camera. That's where the real estate titles, financial contributions, and non-disclosure agreements start to look far more damning than any dramatic monologue ever could. In the end, Coyote Pass wasn't just a patch of land. It was a test of allegiance, leverage, and who could outmaneuver whom. And surprise, the self-styled king and queen of fairness seemed to have been playing a very different game than the one they advertised. They called it a fair split. What actually happened was a calculated land grab in broad daylight. There's something oddly poetic about the way Coyote Pass was split among Cody Brown and his wives. Poetic in the same way a Shakespearean tragedy is poetic, deeply unfair, wildly dramatic, and entirely predictable.
And then all 4 of us on this lot, and all 4 of us on this lot.
The official story? A 4-way division between Cody, Robyn, Janelle, and Mary. The subtext? A sleight of hand that left the more deserving parties with the short end of the metaphorical polygamist stick. Let's start with the math. Robyn, Cody's fourth and only remaining wife, somehow landed an equal share of the communal property despite having contributed the least, at least financially. She hasn't worked a day since marrying into the Brown family, unless one counts collecting family funds for her lifestyle accoutrements, dolls, artwork, and enough Victorian frill to make Queen Victoria blush.
Our names are on different pieces of the property, so we actually all do have an asset.
One would assume the logical split would be three ways, with Robyn excluded from Coyote Pass since she and Cody already secured a sprawling McMansion, funded, notably, by pooled money from the Las Vegas house sales, which everyone chipped into. Robyn, of course, already received her payday when the rest of the wives helped bankroll her dream home. Christine, the first wife to officially flee the sinking ship, sold her share of Coyote Pass to Cody, fair and square. But that transaction only shines a brighter light on the injustice.
Did you see that? Robyn's house is huge. Janelle's house is, well, not a house.
Why was Robyn entitled to both the largest house and an equal share of land bought with family money?
Cody really started to gravitate more and more to Robyn and to her house.
Some will argue that Robyn had just as much right to the property as the others. Legally? Perhaps. Ethically? That's generous. The idea that Robyn, who married into an already functioning family, contributed little to its income and benefited disproportionately from its resources, deserved an equal cut is laughable on its face. Especially when Mary and Janelle, the two longest-suffering participants in this polygamist pageant, stood by and watched their assets quietly siphoned into the Cody and Robyn Retirement Fund. If fairness were the guiding principle, then the division of Coyote Pass would have accounted for prior financial favoritism. Robyn should have signed away her land rights in exchange for her palatial residence and porcelain doll empire. Instead, she walked away with both. And then there's the legal angle. Mary and Janelle, ever compliant, chose not to fight, even with ample on-camera evidence of Cody's inconsistent financial promises and blatant misrepresentation. They could have pushed for a settlement, perhaps even exposed the financial tomfoolery in discovery had it gone to court. But no, they opted to cut their losses, which, in this case, meant cutting themselves out of what was rightfully theirs.
I wasn't involved in that process. I don't know, honestly, who was. But when we bought it...
Even more ironic? Robyn once insisted on having her name on additional parcels of land in case of a divorce. A curious level of foresight for someone so invested in eternal togetherness. When Cody protested, she staged a dramatic exit, presumably expecting a trail of pleading family members to follow. None did. In the end, the Coyote Pass saga is a microcosm of the entire Brown family dynamic. Favoritism masked as fairness, passivity mistaken for peace, and a communal dream slowly hollowed out by ego, entitlement, and designer dollhouses. Polygamy, it seems, doesn't just shortchange women emotionally, it does a stellar job financially, too. Robyn didn't win Cody. She inherited everything the other wives escaped.
Plural marriage is a struggle. It's a hard thing.
Cody Brown has long abandoned the image of confident patriarch. What remains is a man who appears more preoccupied with chasing approval than leading a family. His behavior, particularly around Robyn, now resembles that of a lovesick teenager, more eager for affection than dignified in pursuit of it. The now infamous mustache episode is a masterclass in overcompensation. Robyn casually cites it as a reason for not wanting to kiss him, despite the fact that he's sported the thing for years without complaint. In response, Cody promptly shaves it off, seemingly hoping the gesture will earn him more than just polite affection. Instead, he receives a few closed-lip, obligatory kisses that felt more ceremonial than romantic. It was clear. He was aiming for intimacy. She was aiming for the exit.
Plural marriage is a struggle. It's a hard thing.
Then there's his interaction during Brody's visit, which could be mistaken for a high schooler trying to act cool in front of his crush's friends. The awkward energy, the forced charm, it's not endearing, it's exhausting.
Suffering from hurt feelings by my family's refusal to abide by COVID.
Add to that the flashbacks during the tell-all, where Cody all but pleads for validation over being rejected by Christine and Janelle, and what emerges is not a misunderstood husband, but a man auditioning for sympathy in front of a national audience.
I'm struggling to reach out to my kids anymore because
Robyn, once the elusive favorite, now finds herself at the center of his undivided attention, a position she may have once desired, but now must endure. With no other wives in the picture to balance his emotional load, she's left with the full force of his neediness. The irony is impossible to ignore. The very exclusivity she once seemed to covet now feels like a trap.
Me.
Come on, baby, come on. Really, seriously.
It's so painful. I just get poked all the time.
As for the mustache saga, it reeked of filler content, an attempt to craft a storyline out of nothing more than facial hair and forced reactions. It's emblematic of a show that's running out of genuine narrative, but still stretching trivial events into full episodes. And yet, here the audience is, week after week, watching the unraveling of a man once at the helm of a plural empire.
this is the end of this family.
The drama may no longer come from household rivalries, but from the slow-motion emotional implosion of its central figure, who, increasingly, seems unsure of where to place his affections, authority, or sense of self. Subscribe for more.